Hi everyone. Well, I'm back today to talk about the actual executive order that President Trump signed today, moments ago. Have it in my hand, suspending immigration to the United States. Now, there's many things that are incorporated in this executive order, but it is not as expansive as we thought it was going to be based on the tweet that he put out. This video is going to go through the components of this actual order that was signed and I have in my hands. And it's also going to talk about at the end of the video a little bit how it does go towards possibly limiting non-immigrant work visas, unfortunately, in the future. But we'll talk about that at the end of the video. But let's get into the nuts and bolts of what the actual executive order that he signed says and who it applies to and how it will affect them for the next 60 days. Watching that doesn't know who I am Andrea Chev, the managing attorney at Chev Law Group in Los Angeles, California. I've been doing immigration for over 17 years, and I do immigration related videos all the time to help educate people with credible, real information that they can rely on. If you like this video and you find it informative, please don't forget to subscribe so you get latest updates on immigration issues that are happening all the time, especially these days. And don't forget to hit that bell too so you're notified every time a new video comes out. Now let's get into this executive order in my hands, released and signed by President Trump today on the 22nd of April, 2020. Now, please forgive me once in a while. I'm going to be looking down and reading directly off of this document because it just was released. I want to make sure that I get the exact language to everybody and I don't just summarize too much where it's important key information that you need to know. Okay, let's touch on what was the actual rationale of President Trump putting this executive order in place. Now that we have the wording, we can actually see what was the clear reasoning behind doing this. And what it is that he states that because of COVID-19, we've had a huge surge in unemployment, clearly. And he thinks that allowing more immigrants into the United States will take away the advantage or the competitive advantage for U.S. citizens getting back into the workforce. That will have a surge of individuals coming in that will take those positions away from U.S. citizens. Now, I don't personally think that we're going to have so many immigrants coming in the next 60 days to cause any effect on that, but that's his rationale behind that. Now, we have to also understand, he states here in the executive order, that we have to understand that permanent residents or green card holders have carte blanche to work anywhere in the United States. So there's no limitation on where they have to work or where they can work, unlike work visas or non-immigrant visas, where you're only allowed to work in certain areas and you have to be authorized to work for certain employers. Green card holders or permanent residents, they can work anywhere. So it is true that they would be able to take a position that a U.S. citizen would because they can do anything they want. It's not limited to certain areas or certain requirements. I still don't understand how that really 60 days of halting this or suspending this is really going to make a big difference on the U.S. citizen population be able to get back into the workforce. But that is the rationale he has in this order in front of me. Okay, let's get into now who this actually affects. What are the individuals that this actually affects? Okay, so first of all, it's anyone that's outside of the United States currently as of the date of this proclamation taking effect, which would be April 23rd, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, April 23rd. So if you're outside the United States and you do not have an immigrant visa in your hand at the time this goes into effect. If you already have an immigrant visa in your hand, this won't affect you whatsoever. And then the third criteria is that you don't have any other travel document, like an advance parole document in your hand before this proclamation goes into effect. So the three criteria of the people, or the three things that will make you fall under this executive order would be that you're outside the United States, you do not already have an immigrant visa in your hand that is valid, and you do not have any other travel document in your possession. So those are the three criteria that would make you fall into or be affected by this actual executive order that he just passed. Okay, let's now go over the people that are excluded from this executive order that will not be affected by this executive order. One is any lawful permanent resident. So someone who's already a lawful permanent resident is not going to be excluded or not be affected by this. Two, any person seeking to enter the United States on an immigrant visa as a physician, a nurse, or other healthcare professional to perform medical research or other research intended to combat the spread of COVID-19, or to perform work essential to combating, recovering from, or otherwise alleviating the effects of COVID-19 outbreak. Thirdly, any alien applying for a visa to enter the United States pursuant to the EB-5 program. So if you're coming in to the EB-5 program, you don't have to fall under this executive order. Any alien who is the spouse of a U.S. citizen. That's a key one. So if you're a spouse of a U.S. citizen, you're not going to be affected by this actual order. Anyone who's coming in it's important to the United States under law enforcement objectives, or that's a member of the United States Armed Forces. Okay, those are basically the individuals that are excluded from this order. The only other one that they put in there also is that if letting you in the country would be in the national interest of the United States, and that would be through the discretion of the Secretary of State or the Secretary of Homeland Security. Okay, so those are the people that are included under this executive order, and then the people that are excluded from this executive order. Very important. The people that are included under this order, let me just say one more time, are people that are outside the United States that do not currently already have an immigrant visa and do not also have any other travel document to the United States in their possession when this actual order went into play. Okay, this is for 60 days, only 60 days, and then it will be reevaluated according to the proclamation. Okay, so anyone that's outside of those parameters are not being affected by this executive order. So it is quite limiting. It's not very expansive, like I said in the beginning, like we thought it might be based on his very broad tweet that he put the other night and that we already had talked about in another video. So we can take a deep breath and we can relax as to the expansiveness of this. Now, will it affect quite a few people? Yes, it's going to affect quite a few people that are sitting outside the United States waiting now to get their immigrant visas and waiting for interviews and so on and so forth. But it's not going to be as expansive to affect non-immigrant visa holders. Now, with that being said, there is a provision in this at the very end, which I am going to read to you, that's called additional measures. And this is what's making me a little bit uncomfortable about this order. And it's always funny when you deal, funny in a sick way, funny with these orders, that there's always these little tidbits that they drop in there towards the end that no one kind of notices, or they don't want anyone to notice, but it's in there and it affects usually a completely different group of people than what's actually addressed in the order. And this provision says, within 30 days of the effective date of this proclamation, the Secretary of Labor and the Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Secretary of State, shall review non-immigrant programs and shall recommend to me other measures appropriate to stimulate the United States economy and ensure prioritization, hiring, and employment of U.S. workers. So what does that mean? Well, it means that President Trump is reaching out to these government agencies and asking them, what can you give me as an option to modify, suspend, change, manipulate the situation of non-immigrant visa applications and their processes to help, advance the opportunities for U.S. citizens getting back to work after COVID-19. So he didn't put anything in this actual executive order that's going to affect directly anyone that holds a non-immigrant visa, either inside the United States or waiting outside the United States to get their interview to get their non-immigrant visa. But he is reaching out to all the government agencies that have control over those types of visas and asking them, I want ideas. I need ideas of how we can help the U.S. citizens in the United States to get back to work and not have non-immigrants possibly hinder that process. So that's to come. Now, will it come? Will he do that? I don't know. But clearly it was on the table before when he probably tweeted, or it's been on the discussion table of how we can also suspend or limit non-immigrant workers. But it could also be, again, some type of political maneuvering that is put in here to make certain individuals feel comfortable or feel good about him, even though he didn't put it in and they wanted him to. It could have been just plopped in there just for that effect, or it could have been that he really wants to create some kind of changes to those programs in order to allow an advantage to US citizens when everyone starts getting back to work and limit the competition they will have. Now, as I said in the other videos, what competition is that? I don't know. I don't really know how the two things even flow together when we're dealing with non-immigrant visas and who qualifies for non-immigrant visas and who holds non-immigrant visas. As I've said many, many times, and I will say again, that the non-immigrant visa community holds positions and will continue to hold positions that are unlikely to be taken ever by US citizens in the United States, and especially the US citizens that are now currently out of work. So I don't see where there's any reason for him or anyone or any organization to put any kind of suggestions forward to modify or change or suspend any kind of non-immigrant visa category or program that already exists. I think, again, and I will say it again, that I think it is not in our best interest at all to even touch those people, even temporarily. I think we need to nurture them and we need to support them and not lose them to COVID-19, not in a way of their lives, but in a way of their intellectual capacity and what they bring to our society. We need to take care of them and we need to make sure that they stay here, and we need to make sure that those programs continue, because those areas that they fill and those little spots that they take up in our society are critical and key to the success and the growth and the rebirth of the United States after COVID-19, because it's going to be a whole process to get us to get back to where we were. And we need those people just as critically as we need the US citizens that are already here. So that will be something we'll have to see that will come. I will keep a very close watch on that to see if anything else develops in that area of non-immigrant visas. But for now, this executive order that is intact for at least 60 days, hopefully only 60 days, only limits immigrant applicants coming into the country. So once again, it only affects people that are outside the country, that don't already have immigrant visas in hand and don't have travel documents. It doesn't affect anybody else. So please take that, make sure that that is very clear, to kind of rest your anxiety and kind of pause and realize that everything's going to be okay. We're not doing any major changes like we thought might happen after that tweet the other night. And this is just something that is a temporary 60-day period, which in reality, it doesn't really do anything, because from what I understand and from what I'm seeing from the consulates abroad, they're not doing any interviews anytime soon. It could be opening up, I don't know, in the next 30 days or so or more, but in the next 60 days, I'm not sure that they're going to have very many immigrant applications coming through that they're going to have interviews for and then process. So really, I don't even understand on a very basic level what this whole executive order is about. Because right now, and probably for the next 60 days or maybe even more, everything abroad is shut down. There are no interviews going on. There are no immigrant visas or non-immigrant visas being issued. There's none of that's happening. So I don't really even understand what the need for this executive order is, because it's already in effect indirectly anyway. But what can we do? It is what it is. Trump put this in play today. It goes into effect at 11:59 p.m. on the 23rd. It goes for 60 days and it can be reevaluated or extended. We'll keep our fingers crossed that they stay rational and they stay in reality and they don't make any changes to any non-immigrant policies or procedures or programs, and everything stays status quo. Please, I'm going to be releasing a video probably tomorrow on non-immigrant rights, because I feel like, the non-immigrants in this country, especially inside the country, that are sitting here right now listening to this video, do not have their rights spoken about. And I want you to tune in and make sure you watch that video about what are our rights as non-immigrants in the United States and visa holders. What, who's speaking for us and who's taking care of us, and why is more not happening? So please stay tuned for that video. I love talking about these issues. I think they need to be spoken about. I think someone needs to get up on that mountain and scream for the immigrant and non-immigrant community in the United States. And I am proud to do it. And I am very lucky to get to work with all of you out there that are watching this video, that are immigrants, non-immigrants, looking to come to the United States. Anybody that's out there that is involved in the immigrant community, I am honored to be able to know you and to work with you and to be able to spend my days dealing with this area of law.